Okay, welcome back. Man, thank you for doing this. I appreciate this. So today I have my friend Teo Dick, very close friend of mine. We've known each other. I was just thinking, we've known each other for like 4 years now.
Yes.
For maybe 5? No.
Almost
I don't know.
5 years.
Almost 5.
Almost 5 years. Yeah.
So Teo and I have known each other for 5 years, and his wife's not here, Marina, who I wanted to do an interview with as well. But today's interview will be a lot about looking at giving career advice and just educational advice, because Teo here has just recently finished his PhD, a doctorate in materials engineering specifically. Am I
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Which obviously stems from doing engineering to begin with. And Teo has a very unique experience in that he did his undergrad in Brazil. You did your master's in France?
No, so for 1 year I was in France during my undergrad studies. My master's was in Brazil as well, and then the PhD here in Canada. Yeah.
So Teo has gone to universities in Brazil, France, and Canada, and has spoken at a couple conferences and wrote quite a few academic articles. So, I mean, that's a good background about you. So, I guess first things first, we'll go into, what made you even want to go into university?
Okay, obviously there was a bit of family influence, right? My parents used to work at the university, right?
Mm-hmm.
And grandparents as well. So I kind of I knew that environment already, so it was like an easier choice. And
your family was quite distinguished for their scientific discoveries in Brazil, in your region, because your grandfather from your father's side has a park named after him because he discovered some. No, it's not discovered, or was it because of his role in academia?
No, actually. So the park is because he donated land.
Okay.
For the city, but he's well known in academia. He was a biochemist.
Okay.
He was a professor as well. My grandfather and my grandmother, they were professors. My father, he is a professor as well, and my mother, she works at the university. She used to work. She's retired now as a technician.
Okay.
In different subjects. So my grandfather was a physician and chemist. My grandmother was
physician, meaning doctor.
Yes.
He worked in a hospital.
He never worked in the hospital, so he graduated in medicine.
Okay.
He was a medicine doctor, right?
Okay.
That's how we say.
So he completed medical school and then went to the chemistry side of it.
Yeah, actually the opposite. So he completed chemistry, and then he did the medical school, and he decided to just do research, right? He never saw any patient, right? My grandmother, she was a chemist. My father, he's a metallurgical engineer, which is it's close to materials engineering, but specifically directed towards metals, right? Metallic materials. And my mother, she's a chemist. She was working as a technician when they met, right? Okay, so yeah, I guess.
And just to clarify, so you right out of high school, I guess Brazil, whatever they call it, but you finish at 18, and then you began your undergraduate at 18 years old.
So yeah, if in Brazil, at least at that time, you finish when I finished when I was 17 actually, right? And I remember on the last year we had all these. I'd say not courses, but specific lectures about trying to decide what you want to do, right?
In high school, your last year.
In high school, that's actually when I started thinking in what I wanted to do.
Which is very common, right?
Yeah, and I already knew the academic side. I remember going, to my father's lab, so I was used to it. So that was I guess an easy option for me.
Right? So you're already familiar with academia, and so that's going to make things very easy for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so you started so school starts. You are. Let me correct that. University begins. You're 17 years old. and you just recently finished your PhD. How old are you now? Your
Now-
birthday was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so now I'm 33.
33.
I'm 33.
So 18 to 33, most of the time was spent in education
Yes,
as your primary goal and focus.
exactly.
Okay.
It's it's a long way.
So because I want to focus more on the master's, the PhD, kind of the postgraduate studies, I think that's what they're called.
Yes.
Right. You know, what was your experience like? So what did you do your master's in?
So so my undergrad studies was in materials engineering, and inside materials engineering, you have several fields you can go to, right? And already during my undergrad studies, I started working in labs inside in the university, right? Which is something I think it's a good idea to do if you want to do graduate studies, right? You already start thinking what type of research you like, in to what field you want to go to.
And you were thinking that in your first year?
I already knew, yes, I was thinking that since I decided I wanted to do materials engineering, so I already knew kind of the options, right? I started reading about it when I was 17, getting ready to in Brazil you do an exam, right? It's not like
it's an entrance exam.
Yes. Yeah. And you choose to which course you're doing the exam to before applying, right?
And is there a certain percentage requirement? Like if you get below 75%, they just won't let you into the program, or does everyone get in?
It depends on the average, that year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
If you recall, were your peers and classmates, were they also thinking at 17 years old what they wanted to do for further education? Or were many of them just thinking, I want to get my undergrad?
I guess most people were just thinking I want to get my undergrad. And even myself, I was more kind of having in my mind what got me interested. And then I decided, okay, I want to do a master's, I want to do research, as opportunities were showing, right? But I remember in that year, everyone was talking about nanotechnology, right?
Okay.
It was something AI and machine learning is now, nanotechnology was...
So this is about 13 years ago.
Yes.
13 years ago, the big hype thing was nanotechnology.
Yes.
And I want to say I kind of remember that when I was a kid. Yeah.
And in materials engineering, a big part of it is nanotechnology is actually a very important part of materials engineering and materials science. And it has applications in several fields, right? So my field specifically is, so during my master's, I'll start with the undergrad studies, because I started doing research when I was an undergrad student, right? First, I work with composites, which is a type of material that's if I can roughly explain, it's a mixture between two types of materials.
Okay.
So you have
you don't need to get too much into the science.
Okay.
But
so then it was something that involved nanotechnology, right?
Okay. So you're already gearing towards doing nanotech.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and composites as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When I was in France, when I was there for a year, to study, and I did an internship in a lab, and I started working with materials it was related to nanotechnology as well, but from biological resources, right?
Okay.
So it's we don't call it biomaterials, but you can call it biomaterials actually. There's a kind of confusion with the name, but materials that come from biology, and there are materials that are synthetic and you want to use inside the body, right?
Okay.
So that can be called biomaterials as well.
And that's what you're doing.
I did both. So I started with I started learning materials that came from nature, right? So for example, you can take wood, purify it, and get a specific component of wood, and then use it for synthetic materials, right?
Which is more advanced than my scientific understanding.
So, you can take just like one compound and use it, etc. And then on my master's, I was doing like synthetic materials, right? But for medical applications. So you want a material that is biocompatible, and when this material is nanostructured, like it's nano, right? Has it's on the nanometric scale.
It's tiny.
It's tiny. Yeah, you have special properties as well. So basically, I kind of changed fields. They were like similar fields, but they both involved nanotechnology. Okay, and for my PhD, like you said, I recently finished, right, last year. It also involved nanotechnology, but I was studying nanoparticles, right, for DNA delivery and mRNA delivery. So the same technology that is used for the COVID vaccines, right? Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So let's shift over into discussing, the lifestyle aspect of doing your master's, because everyone's like, if this is an interview for what it's like to actually be a master's PhD student, everyone's going to pick their own specific field to do that in. But what is the lifestyle like? So for example, and I've discussed this in other interviews, when you're an undergrad, especially with engineering, your schedule is made for you, correct?
Yes.
In Brazil as well, they just tell you these are the courses you need. Your materials engineer.
You have a few options,
but like the majority of the science courses are chosen.
Yes. So you have like a common background that is like for every type of engineering. Then you have like specific courses that are for your specific type of engineering. For example, I was having material science, right?
Yeah.
And then you have stuff you can choose. That's when you have the option of kind of direct yourself towards a field. So I remember taking the course biomaterials, right? Which was like materials for medical applications. That's what got me interested in.
Oh, okay. So there's opportunity for you to explore your interest for further education.
Yes.
Okay. So then once you get into the master's, what does it look like for you as a student?
So, in terms of
like courses, developing what you're going to research about, and then finishing that and polishing it off and submitting something to say that Teo, you now have a master's of engineering.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say even before wanting to do a master's, I think it's a good idea to prepare for it in terms of getting involved with research as an undergrad student, right?
How might you do that?
So back home, I was, it's like applying for a job, right? You apply for scholarships that pay you to work in a lab. And then you, like, for example, you work mentored by a PhD student. So you work as an undergrad researcher, right?
Oh, okay. So you work to support a laboratory?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so you had already done quite a bit of support work. You've been in some labs, and maybe you curated that experience to say, hey, I want to be in this lab because they're doing something that potentially interests me.
Yes, not necessarily in this lab, but
field,
or like just like doing research is interesting, right?
Okay. So even before you get into your master's, for those of you who are thinking of getting the master's, you're recommending that they get involved in that research process.
Yes.
Maybe by their second, third year, they should be doing it, or as soon as possible, rather.
Yeah, I'd say some people do it like as soon as they start their undergrad studies. Some people wait a bit more. Also because like due to the workload, right? You also want to do well on courses because it's always a good idea, right, to dedicate to your courses if you want to. Well,
and just so we're clear, like you need a certain grade level to get into a master's program. Like you can't get into a master's program here with a 2.3 GPA.
Yeah, unless, yeah.
Like you need, I think here, many programs you need above 3.4.
Yeah, like unless...
Which for those of you unaware, that's like a B minus. So that's on a 4.0 scale, 3.4 is quite high. And you need that across your program. It's not just one semester.
Yeah, I'd say like it's a combination of factors, both your grades, right, GPA, number of publications, and other experiences.
As an undergrad?
As an undergrad. Like if you have publications, it's better, right? Like that's why you want to that's why it's a good idea to get like in early contact like with research, because then you get the opportunity to be part of scientific publications, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. So, and I don't
Yes.
know if that's the same in Canada, but my understanding was that it's mostly just grades. Like, okay, you're academically capable of excellence, so we'll let you come on to our master's program. Okay, that's good to know, right? Like, you should be proactive and get involved as soon as possible to give you the best chance of success,
Yes.
while also managing having to do well in your particular undergrad.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say if you have publications,
Don't worry about the cats.
yeah, the cats are hanging around. If you have publications, it's a plus, right?
Yeah.
For example, like I didn't have the best grades,
Mm-hmm.
but I had publications, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so
You have
I
a-
balanced
yeah.
both, right?
Okay.
And people that like they had like great, amazing GPAs, they don't have publications. Also, because you only have 24 hours a day, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's only so much that can be done. So, what does day one as a master's student look like? If you, I'm hoping you can recall.
I don't recall exactly, but
Week one.
week one. Okay, so at the start, like you have like two things you need to worry about, right? The courses you're taking and your research, right? So I'll talk first about the coursework, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like doing undergrad studies. You have this extra. You need to take courses, do well on them, do exams, right? It's exactly like you did in your undergrad studies, right?
And what is different about these courses versus undergrad courses?
So they're probably more specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have more like freedom to choose the courses you want. So if I'm doing a master's in biomaterials, right? I'll probably take courses that will help me, right? Like maybe I'll. Yeah.
Well, they're very specific to what you want to specialize in.
Yeah, you have the option of specialization.
And they're more advanced, meaning they probably demand you to know some of the basic information to understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
But differently from the undergrad studies. So yeah, in your undergrad studies, you're focusing on the coursework, right? And doing a bit of research, if you decide to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now in your masters, you do lots of research, and you only have a few courses to do, right?
So how do those courses differ in mechanics? Meaning, let's say maybe you only need to take 10 courses in your master's. Those courses that you have, are you still writing papers, taking exams and whatnot?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd say like, I think here at the University of Alberta, you only take 6 courses in your
Okay.
masters. I might be wrong.
But in all of
But,
them, you will do exams, you will write some sort of paper, you will have to submit work.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But you'll be mostly worried about your research, right?
But you still need to pass your 6
No, yeah,
courses.
definitely.
Okay.
But
If you get mediocre grades, it's whatever, as long as your research is going well. Mediocre, like you're still passing, but let's say you have a 2.7.
yeah, I'd say like if you want to do a PhD after, you either need to have like you need to do like good research in your masters. It's a good idea to have good grades, and if you publish, if you like make scientific publications, that will be very well evaluated, right?
So if you have an outstanding research track record and publications and mediocre grades, they'll say, hey, this person's clearly capable of doing research, but maybe just doesn't like sitting in a class.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a balance, but if you can have everything like
everything
right,
at a certain
fair.
level, and then one really outstanding. Okay.
Yeah. So in my specific case, right, in my masters, I decided to dedicate more to both. Right, so I took more care of my grades this time.
Did you find it easier because there was less classes?
Yes. Also, it's more. You have more motivation because now you're doing something like more specific, right? That you chose to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say.
Well, and that's a big thing that people don't understand. Like in university, sometimes you don't have a lot of choice.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to, like for my undergrad, I had to take a lot of broad general courses. Now for me, I had so many options that I could find things that I liked. But if you're in first, second year engineering at the U of A,
No, yeah,
you just take basic general science courses, and it's like,
yes,
it's not fun, right? Before we continue on that, do you want to discuss?
Yeah, I'd say like for engineering specifically, right? Normally the start is the most difficult part. Because normally when you start getting into the specific courses, first they are more interesting, I'd say, and two, you have less math, pure math. I think he's locked.
I thought that both cats were outside. Do you want to open the door for them?
Yeah, open the door.
Okay. Yeah, so you're emphasizing that the courses are more specific to what you want and not what the university is telling you, which makes it maybe a little bit easier to be motivated.
Yes.
Why did you struggle with motivation? We've discussed this, but for the interview.
Yes. I mean, I think it probably got obvious by this point. It's a demanding career, right? It can be. Like you have.
Well, let's talk about undergrad, because
Yes.
I remember you told me that even in undergrad, you were like, "Hey, I don't really need to go to class. I can figure this out on my own."
You can like. I was more. I enjoyed studying by myself more than going to class. But sometimes not a good idea to do that, right? No.
For most people, not a good idea. Go to your classes. Like I didn't study, but I went to class. Right? I mean, there's like two dichotomies, eh? It's like the people who go to class. For me, like all I did was go to class, take notes, and listen. And I would review those notes, and I would get B's, C's, whatever. In my fourth year, when I started applying myself, I started seeing some A's. But man, after my first semester, terrible idea. After my first semester, I just didn't buy textbooks. I just said, you know what? Like if there's a test that has a lot of textbook questions on it, I'll just do bad. Not good, right? But then there's another flip side, particularly I think the sciences, the STEM fields, people can do this where I can teach myself the theories and learn it on my own and the questions and then just show up for exams.
Yes.
Right? Like you don't necessarily need the professor to teach you as much if you're smart enough to understand it.
Yeah, I guess like depends on how you like to learn.
Okay, the learning styles as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's good to know as well. Were you aware of your learning style when you...
No, I wasn't. It just happened naturally.
Like for me, I'm starting to realize I really like listening. I want to digest the information through a conversation like this, right? Like I learn best through one-on-one conversation. So sometimes even just showing up to lecture was dry. It's like, this person's broadly speaking. They're not speaking to a student. So it doesn't feel like a conversation.
Yeah.
And like, man, like forget textbooks. Like that just wasn't going to happen. They were so boring. And so much, right? Coming back to that point you made. I don't know what it's like in the STEM fields, but in the humanities, sometimes the professor would ask you to read 3 really big and boring novels. Like just a big book that was just research. And it's like, man, that's one class. You have 5 in a day or in a semester.
Yeah, I'd say like in every specialty you choose, like you have to do stuff you don't want to. To get your
get your credentials, right?
Yes,
you have to
exactly.
do things you don't want to.
You have to do things maybe you don't think are useful, but maybe they are, maybe they're not, I don't know. But you need to do it to, like, for example, in my case, to be considered an engineer, right?
Yeah.
You need to have that math, the physics, right? The chemistry. Yeah.
So coming back to your master's then, you're enjoying it because you have less courses. The courses are more specified to what you want to do. And that produced better results for you.
Yes.
Tell us more.
So the focus is the research.
Yeah, tell us more about the research. What did you end up... what is this process, first of all?
Okay, so research. Okay. I'd say, like, looking very practically, like, how things happen, right? Normally you have 2 options. You can engage in a project that someone else decided, right? Someone else had the idea about. For example, your supervisor, right? Maybe he already has this this thing he's researching, and you just like
You join it.
You join it and you start doing it, right? But it wasn't your idea. And there you have a second option, which is coming up with this idea of yours, right? Which is difficult, right? It can take some time to read all the literature and decide, okay, this is something original and something relevant that I want to research, right? But it's a nice option because then it's original, and it also gives you more motivation, in my opinion, right? Because it's your own idea.
And do you think that was easier for you to do because you had already spent so much time in labs, already prepping yourself for research?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like there's only two options. Either you join a supervisor and do what they want you to do, or you produce your own research and publish material on that.
You'll be still under a supervisor, of every
course,
time, but on that field, but this will be your own idea inside your supervisor's field, right?
So then in that scenario, what is the supervisor's role? Right, if you're doing your background reading the literature, the articles, you're coming up with the idea, you're leading your own research, which is something that is different from the undergrad. Like in the master's, the PhD, you need to direct yourself.
Yes.
You got to get your own ass out of bed every day and get into the lab and do the work.
Yes.
And figure out why you're not getting the results you want. So what is the role of the supervisor when you're doing your own research? When you picked your own path?
I'd say he directs you in the right direction, right? Okay. So when you have when things are not working, for example, right, then you go and talk to your supervisor, maybe he gives you some light, right? And he also makes sure you don't do anything too bad, right?
Okay, so they keep you reined in.
Yes.
Hey, your research is going really wrong, or you're misunderstanding something here, you need to adjust. Or we don't know what the hell you're doing. You need to switch your focus.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're also somewhat responsible for you completing your degree on time. They want you to do well normally. And
we'll discuss more about that normally later.
There's also I guess in every job you can have situations that can be complicated. Yeah.
So tell us more about your experience with your master's supervisor.
I'd say it was I had a good relationship with him. He didn't need to help me much, right? But he always directed me towards finishing my research on time and publishing what I had to publish. And every time when you write something, right, your supervisor will correct it, make sure this is they correct what you wrote, right? Your publications.
There's a whole peer editing process before you submit.
Yes.
Which means that even if you're an engineer, you need to really know how to write well.
Yes. Yes.
Right? For anyone who's currently a student and thinking, I'll just do my sciences and forget writing, you need to have your writing at a certain standard.
Yes.
And that's something I do tell students. It's if you have a really good idea but you write it poorly, it takes away from the idea, because the writing, the sentence structure is just bad. It's sloppy. So similarly, if you submit, and also on that note of publications, what length is a publication? How many pages are you writing on average?
It depends a lot on the publication itself, to what journal you're sending your article to. But I'd say you can definitely have something not accepted because of the level of writing, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and for a foreigner like me, you need to level up your English. In my case, for example, to be able to write a decent document, right?
Yeah.
I'd say like even if you have good results, sometimes you can receive a no, right, from the editor because of the level of English or how bad or how bad you write.
Yeah, so even if your research is good,
Yes,
they'll just look at it and be like, you know what, this guy doesn't know how to write,
it's possible.
and this is messy, it's sloppy, send it back. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And what were your hobbies? Like, what else were you doing with your life while your master's was going on? Because that will relate to when we talk about your PhD.
Yes.
So you're in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably around 22 to 25 doing your master's.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what else are you doing with your life?
Well, I had a hobby. Like I always had hobbies, and I think they're good for, like, I mean, having a social life outside of academia. I think it's good for several reasons, right?
I mean, it's necessary, right?
Yes, mental health. I'd say it's good for making contacts that you maybe by the time, like. You're making these contacts you don't know already, right? But in the future, like you, maybe it's useful to know
those
people.
connections, yeah.
It's useful to have connections with people from other fields and from other realities, other backgrounds. Of course, it's good to like let your brain rest, by doing other stuff.
What were some of your go-to activities to rest? Because obviously, any postgraduate project is very intellectually and mentally demanding. What did you do to recover yourself other than drink, as engineers do?
We only drink water.
Yeah. They only have water in Brazil. Because I know you were saying you were playing guitar at that time.
Yeah, so I was doing jiu-jitsu. Right, later we actually met each other through jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
But were you doing that in your masters as well?
Yes, and and also I was playing music, right? I always enjoyed playing guitar. Yeah.
So after a long day in the lab and school, you come home.
Yeah, maybe you can.
You come home.
You can distract a bit, like get distracted a bit, like.
And
music,
as you can tell by his arm, the size of his arm, clearly you were exercising a lot.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I'm ashamed.
What are you ashamed for? No, but let's talk about that too, because that was one thing I was mentioning to a student of mine or I think maybe a colleague. But people get into university. No, it was a video that was released this morning, actually. People get into university. I don't know if they have this in Brazil, but in North America for sure, in Canada, I remember they say, freshman 15. When your first year of your undergrad, you're going to put on 15 pounds because it's stressful, you're eating poorly, and you're not exercising. Right? You're being very sedentary. You're not moving around. So, were you exercising and staying physically active throughout your undergrad and your master's?
Yes. It's something you need to take care, right? Because when you have lots of work to do, you tend to forget the rest, right? But then I feel like the other things you do actually help in your main, like your job, right? Your main goal. Because you need to be at least mentally healthy, right? And,
absolutely.
I believe it is difficult to be to have mental health if you're not like exercising at least a bit, right? Or you're not like
that's a very scientifically proven claim that your mental health is closely tied to your physical health, like exercising. Right?
Exercising, having a social life, which is difficult sometimes in academia, right? So I'd say people are kind of you don't need that many soft skills in academia to do well, right?
Translation: you can be socially inept. You don't need to know how to talk to people and how to have a social life and a balanced lifestyle to do well in academia.
Exactly. Yes.
And as you learned in your PhD, sometimes having a balanced lifestyle takes away from you pursuing academia fully. Lucy's about to enter the frame here.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of your colleagues in your PhD, but what about your master's? Were many of your colleagues like kind of not socially, not well adjusted? Like, they weren't exercising. They were just really focused on their research. Did you experience that in your master's as well?
Less than here in Canada, right? Just cause also like
because you're in Brazil more, for your master's.
Yes,
it's
I was
fine.
in Brazil.
She's in the frame.
Here like I'd say it's a bit more competitive here in Canada, right, than the place I did my master's. So definitely you see people are a bit more focused, right, and also like culture is a bit different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brazil people are more open to.
You could speak freely, man.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, like people are more open to friendships, I guess, compared to.
Socializing is more important in Brazil, like having friendships, seeing your friends, being socially active is very important there.
I don't know how important it is, but I'd say it's just how things are. It's like easier, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the culture there.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's transition into talking about your PhD then.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of a sudden you go from growing up, being raised in Brazil, research studying in Brazil, and then you one day find yourself in this cold, wintry hell landscape of Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta, one of the coldest cities on the planet.
Yeah.
Why did you come here to do your PhD?
Because of specifically because of the field, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were things going on in Edmonton, Alberta that you wanted to do.
Yes.
How did you even find out about this? Because Brazil's like what, 8,000 kilometers away?
Yes.
And you're in the south of Brazil.
Yes, but yeah, we have internet there too.
You guys have YouTube in Brazil?
You guys have McDonald's in Brazil.
Yeah. How did you? Like, where did you learn about this program through a conference? Did you hear about it from a professor, supervisor? Like, how did you find out that in Edmonton, Alberta, there's something going on? And do you want to speak to that first?
Yes. So exactly what I did was, so I applied for a scholarship that was actually from Brazil. So they would pay me to do my PhD here, right? So, but money would come from Brazil, from Brazilian government. Right? But they wanted specifically something that wasn't well developed in Brazil. And on my so I started doing my research, right?
So they're basically sending you to Canada on a scholarship to learn something, to bring that information back to Brazil.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, how do they feel about you maybe staying here?
Let's see. I still have some time to decide, but I don't know. Well, normally for this type of scholarship, you're supposed to go back, right, to your country, right?
Clearly, she did not like the way I was petting her there.
But the thing is, so what I did, I started doing research on the internet, looking for possible supervisors in subjects that weren't that well developed in Brazil, right? And I came across gene therapy, right, and gene delivery, and there's a good guy here, which was my supervisor. He's a very good professional, right? But
he's very good at what he researched, let's say. We'll discuss this in a moment. We'll talk about that. So you discovered this guy, and he's doing good quality research, and it relates to what you want to do specifically. Okay.
Yes.
And so what was that process then? You just sent him an email one day?
You send an email and you send your CV and resume, it's like looking for a job, you know.
Okay.
You need to convince your supervisor you're going to do a good job, and yeah.
And so before you get that scholarship, you have to confirm from this guy that he's willing to accept you into his lab?
Yes.
Okay. Once you've got the acceptance letter, whatever it is, you let the people in Brazil know, hey, I have a lab, can I apply for the scholarship? and then they can say yes or no?
Yes, they don't need to write like a project asking for money, right? That's what I did.
So again, coming back to that importance of knowing how to write and express your ideas.
Yes, you will write a lot if you go if you choose the academic.
Regardless of if you're in the humanities or the STEM.
Yes, even though having to write a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so you get accepted, you get the scholarship. When do you arrive in Canada?
When 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
What month? September? Or maybe August?
August.
August, okay.
August or September.
And August in Canada and Edmonton's pretty decent.
Yeah.
So you have no idea what's about to hit you.
I had an idea, but kind of.
You had researched an idea.
Yes.
Okay. So what is that like then? Because like anyone who's considering like, hey, I'm gonna go do I'm gonna go to school in America or school in this place. What is it like showing up to a different country, different area?
Okay, it's always difficult at the start, right? You need to adapt to cultural differences, even climate, right?
And for you, culture especially, because people
Yes.
look at you like, oh, he's just a white guy, right? So they might just look at you from a distance and go, he's Canadian. But when you start speaking, it's like, okay, he has an accent. He's from somewhere else. They maybe don't know. And you might do something that's very normal in Brazil or just kind of the way you grew up, which might be very different here, right? So you need to adapt to a culture that, quite frankly, is very different from the one you grew up in.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
What was that like? Tell me about that experience.
Sometimes it can be difficult, right? Especially at the workplace, right? And that's why I think like having a hobby help, like doing jiu-jitsu, right? Helped me because I met people outside of work, and when people are not at work, they tend to more easily socialize, right?
Yes, and it's also nice, like so you're in academia, I'm in my field working. We're not just going to talk about work.
Yes.
Right, and that helps take your mind off of like it gives you an opportunity for your brain to think about other things, and then maybe you can come back to that problem you have in your research to help you find a solution. Right, maybe you're more in a more relaxed state. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you found in your PhD in this work environment, like not a lot of people bother to have a social life.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Yeah. Also, like I think this is a consequence of moving from another country, right? When you arrive, you don't have a social life, right? That's your natural starting state, right?
Yeah, you started kind of zero, hey? Like you don't have any friends, you don't know anyone, no contacts, and you have this very demanding program that if you fail, you're kind of screwed. Like back home with your scholarship stuff, whatever,
Yes.
like you could be in some serious trouble. Financial maybe.
Yes.
Right, okay.
I guess, yeah.
So then there's a lot of inherent pressure already. Like if you don't do well in your PhD, you get sent home. There's social pressure of like, oh, Teo or whoever it is went to that country to do this PhD. They're probably going to finish.
Yes.
So there's a lot of pressure.
Yes, there's a lot of pressure, yeah.
And so again, coming back to those hobbies and some of that more holistic living of like making sure you're exercising, getting sunlight as well, going outside,
Yes,
talking to people, having time to relax
Yes.
is very important to your success.
I agree. This is it's something you need to take care of yourself, otherwise you won't be able to do your job properly, right?
Right, because the university, academia, they don't really care. Like, hey, we brought you on to do this research. That's what they want from you. Particularly here. In Brazil, maybe your professor, your supervisor cared a bit more about you as a person, but here, your experience was a lot like, hey, like get the work done.
I guess it depends on the case, right? I won't say, like, because I only know my specific case here, right? But I'd say like it is a demanding environment. Like you have lots of pressure for results, right? And sometimes things don't work, and it's not necessarily because you're not doing your job, but sometimes because doing something original in science is difficult, right? Sometimes things just don't work. You're not getting the results you need to make a publication, right? And it doesn't mean you're not working, right? Yeah. And then,
but then you're not rewarded in that regard.
yes,
Like,
you're
it's
not
like,
rewarded.
hey,
Yeah.
you're working very hard, but you're not producing results.
Mhm.
What's wrong with you? Does that mentality exist?
I'd say like
How would they treat in
I'd
your lab
say-
particularly? How was it treated when a person wasn't getting results?
I'd say like, so I was in a place, so my supervisor had like a good number of students, right? And it was definitely something you needed to show results, right? And in my case specifically, at least during the first 1 or like 2 years, I'd say, my experiments weren't working very well, right? So I had this original idea.
Your experiments.
Yeah, my experiments. They weren't working very well. And then like, you don't have like positive results to show, right? So I was trying a technology that wasn't giving me the results I was expecting. I wanted to show my idea was like something useful for science, but up to that point, I wasn't able to.
Mhm.
And yes, definitely for your supervisor, maybe that can look like you're not maybe dedicating enough, but at the same time, this is when your supervisor should look to your results and look to your case and kind of try to guide you in a direction in which things start working, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's the moment where your supervisor should say, okay, let's invest more time into this individual and see what the problems are so we can get them back on track.
Yeah, I guess so.
And did that happen for you?
Yes, I'd say like.
Are you being nice for the camera?
No, it's like I understand like overall the goal, of my supervisor was to help me, but the supervisor student relationship can get difficult sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also because maybe this is characteristic from academia, like your supervisor, he will always have lots of I won't say power, but like you depend a lot on him, and sometimes he's very busy, right? And you feel like yeah.
So when the relationship with a supervisor isn't going well, what options do you have as a student?
I'd say the best thing to do is talk to your supervisor and try to. I'd say like what you would do with any colleague or your boss in the industry, right? You need to be able to talk to that person, and even like, let's say with a colleague, you can't like just I don't tell on their face that I don't like you or I think what you're doing is wrong. You won't be able to work with that person. Like you won't get anything done. You need to be polite, even
Respectful,
and think about the major, like the major good, right? You need to get something done, right?
the greater good. Yeah,
The greater good, yeah.
Okay. And so it's very tricky because you, as you mentioned, you rely and depend upon this person, and if things continue to go wrong with your supervisor, they can end it and say, you know what, it's not working out. Okay. And that kind of screws over your plans.
Yes, but I'd say this is something that's not specific from academia, right? I guess this happens.
Yeah, true. If you have a boss in industry, wherever, like even if you're working at McDonald's, and you're just rude to them all the time, and you're adversarial. Eventually they're just gonna be like, what, I don't like this guy. I'm just not gonna schedule them.
Yeah. But I'd say like when you're doing something original, and this is like the good part of doing research, right, in academia, right, in a lab, in the university, you have freedom to do science, like a topic you choose, right? doing something original. And if you like to do something original, and it can be like actually really nice, doing something for the first time, having your own ideas. And I'd say there are not many places you can do that other than in academia, right? Maybe in some specific cases in the industry, right? When you have all the pressure you need to do something that's
economically productive,
highly economically viable, right?
It has to make money.
Yes. And in academia you have the option of doing something for maybe this will like make money in the future, but the main I'd say, in my opinion, right, the opinion I have now, is the main goal is doing original research, something that will generate like knowledge for other people to maybe make money with that,
You're pushing the threshold of that industry, of that field, and trying to learn something new.
Yes, you're helping to build that field by generating knowledge,
Which is essentially what academia was supposed to do, historically speaking.
Yes.
Right? These people are trying to learn more about the human reality.
Yes.
Okay, let's transition to, so what comes next once someone finishes a master's or PhD?
Okay, if you finish your master's, you can either do a PhD, right, or go to the industry, and then this time you have like access to jobs that require a master's, right? Requires someone that knows how to do research, right? Which is, I guess, the only option you have is like doing a master's if you want to, learn how to do research, right? And PhD then is like you spend like several years studying a topic, right? So I'd say after you finish a PhD, there are specific jobs for people with PhD, right? The industry, that there's definitely like jobs in the industry for people with PhDs, and they ask for PhDs. Like it's not something, if you want to go to the industry, it's not something like that will like lower your chances of finding a job, definitely, right? It can actually, I feel like, increase the chances of finding a job if you, at least like increases the chances of finding a job that involves research, right?
As you get more and more educated.
Yes, I think so.
And if that's something you want to do, that's kind of necessary. Hey?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll ask you the last question then. Any advice you have to an 18-year-old who's thinking about, potentially being in academia for 10 to 12 years?
Yes.
What would you say to this person?
Okay, I'd say as soon as you decide you want to do research, if you want to do a master's or a PhD, I'd say start getting involved somehow with research as an undergrad student, right? Choose a field you kind of enjoy working at. Don't do it just because you think it's something trendy or something like someone told you to do. Like you need to do something you enjoy doing, because it's very difficult to have original ideas in fields you don't enjoy. Like
you have to really enjoy what you're doing.
I feel like you need to enjoy what you're doing, otherwise you won't be able to have a nice research idea, right? I'd say like it's something you probably end up doing if you like it. If you like to do research, you end up like deciding to do that without even thinking too much, I'd say prepare by getting involved with research. Take care with your like to get a decent GPA. I don't think it needs to be the best GPA in the world, but like, I mean,
it has to be sufficient. You have to get decent marks. You can't just not get good marks.
Yes, unless you have lots of publications as an undergrad student, which is, I'd say, it's difficult, but
rare.
It's possible. Yeah.
So that's the academic side. What else on the lifestyle and practicality side?
Lifestyle, I'd say, keep your mind open to different experiences. I guess that helps. Like having being more than one environment. Like I don't think and this depends on personality, right? But like for my personality, having the academia as my only environment, right? All my friends in academia, all the people I know are in academia. Like I don't think that's very healthy, right? I like to know people from other backgrounds as well and be involved in other stuff. I think it's healthy. So
diversify what you do with
yes,
your life. Don't just
exactly.
get stuck in one area.
Yes, just yeah. I'd say that's it. Yeah.
Anything else? Any closing thoughts?
No, I think that's all. Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you.
Remember to hydrate. You know.
Yeah,
Just
drink
don't go,
drink water.
Yeah, remember to hydrate while you're studying. Don't go 12 hours studying without hydrating.
Yeah, I mean, actually, like, take care of yourself, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, especially people in this area, you know, maybe you become a workaholic and you forget to eat, you forget to drink water, you forget to take breaks, you get too obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it's like, just like in jiu-jitsu, it's like you can hold on to a grip like really tightly or with like a relaxed but confident grip. And
yes,
both achieve the same goal. But it's just if you hold tightly, like you're going to destroy yourself.
Yes.
You know, so take care of yourself.
But you also don't want to have like lattice grips, right?
No. I'm not saying do the whole pinching, right? Get a firm grip on it, but don't destroy yourself in the process.
Yes. No, just like seriously, like I guess in academia, mental health is a subject I hear, like especially here in Canada. I don't know if because of the lack of light or the weather, I don't know. It's a topic like it's something important, like to take care of your mental health. And I see people not doing well as they could because of mental health, right? So it's something you need to always be checking. Because when you're in in this environment in which you have lots of pressure for results, right? It's easy to have mental health issues, right? Depression, right?
Depression, anxiety, stress,
yes, mm-hmm,
lack of sleep.
Yes.
You're irritated all the time, totally.
Yes.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, like, comment, subscribe.